天，我叫钱维恩，这是 Crash Course for History 的中国和日本节。
That random Chinese man. It meant welcome back to Cram Course, the totally not rip-off show that is not related in any way to any other YouTube channels. It's me, Claire Baker, and welcome back. Our topic today is the development of Asia. We begin in China. So, where to begin? Ah yes, when the Mongol Empire fell apart, China became less of an isolationist country and opened up more to trade. Europe used this as an opportunity and became more involved with China. After Vasco da Gama discovered India, Europeans mostly focused on finding ways to carry cheap goods from Asia and spread Christianity at the time. In the Asian Sea Trade Network, there were 3 zones. This is relatively important, so don't zone out. There was the West Arab Zone with glass, carpets, and textiles, the Central India Zone with cotton and spices, and the East China Zone with porcelain, silk, and paper. The Portuguese took advantage of Asian merchants with superior weapons and ships. Then they began to raid coastal towns like Ormuz and Goa to set up naval ports and factories. The Portuguese were mostly interested in spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. Over time, they simply didn't have enough soldiers or ships to sustain the monopoly by the end of the 1500s. By the early 1600s, Dutch controlled the East Indies and British took India. The Dutch trading empire was similar to Portugal. There was fortified towns and factories, large warships. Dutch had better and more armed ships. There was a monopoly over products. Holland's golden age was during the 17th century. The Dutch removed supply of spices in areas they didn't control, and they murdered indigenous people who cultivated spices without Dutch supervision. Holland and Great Britain attempted to go inland, but were overwhelmed by the numbers of Asian armies. Holland and Great Britain had little interest in spreading Christianity. The Spanish and Portuguese were eager for overseas expansion after success in Latin America. In India, Spanish missionaries like Spanish Jesuite Francis Xavier were successful in casting many low caste members to Christianity. He converted 10,000 along southwest coast of India, but struggled with upper caste members. He had many successful conversations in the Philippines.
Conversations. 1.
In 1600 alone, their population was up to 300 million. Spain and Portugal introduced sweet potatoes, corn, and peanuts, which were important supplements to rice. This also increased the amount of calories in their diet, which made them healthier. China got the most silver from the New World due to demand for silk, porcelain, and tea. China opened up trade for Europeans at Macau, Canton, a Chinese port. But by 1500, Ming only traded with Japan and extending focus on the Great Wall. Focused on extending the Great Wall. Oh, because on the thing, it's...
This is extending focus.
3, 2, 1.
China opened up trade for Europeans at Macau, Canton, a Chinese port. But by 1500, Ming only traded with Japan and focused on extending the Great Wall. In 1644, the Ming dynasty was overthrown from the inside. The dynastic cycle is based on the Mandate of Heaven, which was an invention of the Zhou dynasty. And it basically had a set of rules an emperor had to follow to be good emperor, and if he didn't follow them, he lost the mandate, which basically means the empire will be thrown into turmoil, and the ruler will lose his power until the next dynasty gets the Mandate of Heaven. This picture basically portrays that as hard as we try, we'll just keep cycling through success and failure of life, which will all eventually lead to our inevitable downfall and death.
We're not going to all die.
How do you know that, Stacy?
Because I have logic.
I'm the history major here, Stacy. Oh wait, I'm just a 14-year-old high school student who's trying to make up a riff-buff history channel. Well, that declined fast, just like all empires eventually do.
Episode reference.
Basically, the new dynasty helps people eventually, but then gets corrupted and becomes inefficient and wasteful. Then problems cause the now old dynasty to fall, giving rise to another new dynasty. Dun dun dun! Our next dynasty, the Qing dynasty, became... I don't need your...
I don't need you, Stacy.
I don't need you. Okay, how we start right here? Let's start.
3, yes, 2, 1.
Our next dynasty, the Qing dynasty, began in the mid-1600s. Emperor Kangxi ruled the Qing dynasty and was their most important emperor. He was a Confucian scholar, improved waterways, increased European trade by opening 4 ports in the ports in the 1700s and ended the toleration of Catholics. The Qing dynasty began...
King.
Stacy, I don't need your help. The Qing dynasty's decline began in the late 1800s because of political cheating, favoritism, and individual families taking state money to enrich themselves. China then realized that the dynasty system didn't work anymore because of increased population, technology, and a lot of government corruption.
We should probably mention Confucius, which is the guy in the portrait we have up there. He was a scholar and he was good. People liked him. Yeah, no, not really, but influence.
Thank you for your input, Stacy. Now, in the 19th century, the British tried to get into Chinese ports by getting the Chinese citizens addicted to opium.
Miss Baker, isn't that drugs? Drugs are bad for you.
I know that, me from the past, but tell that to Britain.
Now, an open letter to Japan. But first, what random object is going to be thrown at me today? Oh, a Totoro. But Stacy, what does this have to do with... Oh, right, Japan. Dear Japan, you were so much like me when I was young, always copying off smart people, except I was copying off people, and you were copying off, well, China.
That's him. Or should I say China 2.0, since they got just about all their ideas from China. I mean, religion, writing, except maybe the constantly falling apart and rejoining the thing China does. Japan's center of power changed a lot, but at least they stayed mostly unified as one country. Oh wait, they didn't. Anyways, the Japanese used the feudal system, a political, social, and economic system based on land, loyalty, and military service. At the top was the shogun, who was basically a warlord. Japan always had an emperor, but unless he was a powerful and respected leader, he was mainly a figurehead. The power was usually in the hands of a shogun, or powerful military leader. The local warlords were called daimyos. They were basically less powerful rulers who controlled a small area, but still answered to the shogun, similar to lords. The warrior class were called samurai. They lived by a moral code called Bushido, or way of the warrior. This code included 7 virtues, such as loyalty, honor, and respect. The rest are listed back here. Basically, it's what your kindergarten teacher told you about being nice, but a lot more serious. So serious that if a samurai broke Bushido, they would commit seppuku, which was a ritual suicide to protect their honor. Europe, mainly Portugal, started trade with the Japanese in the 1500s, and they brought goods from India and China, and of course, guns to get Japanese silver, copper, and pottery. They also attempted to spread Christianity through the region. I'm seeing a pattern here. Missionaries had more success until the shogun was murdered by Hideyoshi, who opposed Christianity. So then, in the 1590s, Hideyoshi began persecuting and killing Christians. He also tried to conquer a lot. The next shogun appointed by the emperor was Tokugawa Ieyasu, which began the Tokugawa shogunate, which went from 1603 to 1868. He decided to move the capital to Edo. He controlled the daimyos, or local warlords, by having them pledge allegiance and spend the year in Edo. He really hated Christianity, so he killed, or, if he was feeling nice, exiled any Christian converts. He also wanted to be left alone, so he instituted more intense isolation policies. By the 1630s, Japanese ships could not trade or sail overseas, but apparently he didn't mind the Dutch, for Nagasaki was open to Dutch ships. But that was it. Japan kept up with the Western technologies and stuff, but they also worked on reviving their culture. And then America. In the 1850s, the American Navy showed up and forced Japan to end their isolationism. Not wanting to end up like China and prove they were equal to the West, they quickly modernized. And everyone died in the world wars. The end.
Okay, we're done.
In the 1050s, the American Navy showed up and forced... Why is this in present tense?
Guys, but how's the 1050s? That's before the isolationism.
Exactly. That's like, what?
We messed up somewhere. Who did this?
Okay, what? American Navy. Maybe you need to make a blooper reel when you edit.
Whatever. Why is Cram just on the ground? Oh my god. Okay, you just start here. Sounds it right this time.
Is it Ieyasu?
I need to get
Yes,
off so I can
yes.
flip the slide.
The next shogun appointed by the emperor was Tokugawa. Tokugawa.
Well, where's the first time?
You guys made me laugh. You guys made me laugh. Okay, we're starting instituted. I said insulted.
Twice.